Okay.
Aw.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's all take a nice deep breath and arrive here before we start. As we begin this journey, I want to welcome the light to be with us, to hold us as you already are in this beautiful alchemical container. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Earth, for holding us as we journey and travel in this life, as we learn to be human and beyond. Thank you, guides, angels, family from the stars. I feel you gathering close. Thank you so much. Thank you to my partner, my beloved, for taking this leap with me. And thank all of you for showing up and hearing the call. And the journey's about to start right now. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So, do you want to start with our introductions or their introductions?
You said that you wanted to do like the
Little
meditation thing. Do you want to go do it?
Yep. Well, first I want to give a little rundown of like how things are going to go because we haven't sent the schedule out to everybody. Today's focus, all of you European people figured out the time situation. So now that adjustment has been made. Great. So we're going to be going for these next 6 hours. Today's focus is really about establishing your intention and really coming into a really deep and personal place with yourself of why you're doing this work, why you've shown up for this workshop, for this training. I feel like we both feel like that's a really important part that was missing from maybe the training that we had done and the other modality. So we really want to make, yes, this is about you serving others and holding space for others, but this is also, like anything that we do, so much about self-development and learning more about ourselves. So today's focus is really setting that foundation for yourself.
Yeah, we both came with background of energy healing before we started to do quantum healing hypnosis technique, and we also came from the background of dancers. And we're wanting to add that part today to take this journey with your healing as well. So during the time that we work together, you'll start to receive the healing. You'll start to also connect deeper with your guides. We're gonna go in depth today with a light body and information that already known in many layers, but we want to have it as a base ground for everybody that's doing this work. So also when they are working with a client, they have more background and more ideas of how to question. If you probably noticed the sessions, it's the art of questioning. And in order to find the right questions, you really want to start tap into your own intuition and your own guidance and realizing different patterns. So we're just going to share with you today many things that you can also discover through yourself, and then also just through the energy systems and the chakra systems and the way we see the world and the way we see the world, or you see the world, and how it can translate into your own personal growth as well.
So a little bit more about us. We're going to tell you in this little section, we're going to have some breaks also after. We're going to talk about who we are, how we found quantum healing, why we decided to create our own course and why this course is unique. So that's this first section here that we're just going to talk about. And then we're going to give everyone else a chance to check in, say your name, where you're from, and just sharing a little bit about your intentions or your background, just so everyone can get a name and a face and a voice and all that good stuff.
Where are you in the world?
I want to be like hugging you all so much. You're just like so tiny on my screen and you're right there. I just wanna cool. If you have any questions, use the chat or like wave or something and unmute yourself. And then
most of the time we're going to be like, okay, we're talking and then we're going to give time for questions. So also just write down your questions. So when there is time for questions, you'll be able to, because we're probably not going to stop in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's good to have, if you need like water with you or some snacks, sometimes we're going to do breaks. We're going to do like depend on the class, but sometimes it's 45 minutes, sometimes it's more. We're going to do a little break for 5-10 minutes, and then we'll have half an hour as well to have a bit more like to eat and ground and all those things.
Yeah. So you will have chances to go to the restroom today and eat food. So that's good. Okay. Good. So like Ron was saying, before we came into this quantum healing stuff, we both had very successful careers as professional dancers, as modern dancers. So a lot of our lifetime was in practice of embodiment and creativity and intuition and improvisation and all of that. All of those skills are super applicable to the work as a practitioner, as a quantum healing practitioner, as a human being, but being on our toes and working with the energy as it shows up in a dynamic way was very much trained into our bodies. We both are also Reiki trained, so we've been working with energy and working with clients and laying of hands, as well as both yoga teachers. So you're going to hear some yoga philosophy today. We're going to talk about different parts of yoga philosophy and how that can be applied to this work. We're speaking about past life regressions. We're speaking about karma. We're speaking about samskaras, which all healers are working with. So some of that information might be new for you, and some of it might be for freshening up. So you want to tell the story about how we found quantum healing?
Yeah, and I just want to say we're sharing the information for people that also with fresh mind that are gonna and I'm sure you also have information, so maybe later on you'll also have an opportunity to share with us.
And let's switch to us full screen and pin it. Yeah, we don't need to see them.
Right. You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So okay. How we got to quantum healing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll tell the first part
because
it came to me. Okay, so I was teaching. We love telling the story because there's so much magic. I mean, it's just so much like QHHT, like the quantum healing thing. How it came into our life was magical. I was teaching a friend of mine, maybe the first or second level of Reiki, and after teaching him, he handed me this book, and I held it in my hand, and it was maybe one of the first times that I got a real like clairaudient message in my life. It was the first time that something else kind of happened to me, and that I was aware of. And so I held this book in my hand. It was The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth by Dolores Cannon. If some of you may have read that, or you probably know about it. So as soon as I held this massive book, I hadn't read a book so large in many, many years. As soon as I held this book in my hand, I knew this is a really important book. It's going to change your life. And I was like, oh, wow, this is an interesting cover. What are the 3 waves of volunteers? And what's the new earth? This seems okay. I'll read it. And reading the book for me was nothing short of a journey and a transformation. Just reading the book. If you've ever read any of Dolores Cannon's books, they're encoded. There's incredible information just in reading it. Just to read a little story moved so much in me. Often I had to put the book down because I just had to digest what I was just reading, because I was not only reading incredible client stories, but I was also feeling myself in so many of these client stories and having different synchronicities. Like my younger brother, who had passed away at this point, had been in heaven, or had told my parents that he was with God and was with my other brother and I, and choosing which parents we were going to come down to help. So there were some things that I was reading this book. It's like, wow, this is really powerful, and I can relate to this so much, especially the part about being, highly intuitive, feeling like there's something big to do with my life, feeling deeply connected to the earth and nature. You know the list. You know the feeling. It's in your own heart as well. So I read the book, and then Ron read the book. He also had a really powerful experience reading it. And I'll let you go from there.
Okay. Yeah, the book felt really resonating truth, and kind of talking to things that I was always feeling as well, and was really happy to like have a new vocabulary that is not dogmatic, that is not about religion, that is just a whole new way to talk about the awakening, to talk about ascension, to talk about what we felt that we're doing without understanding even what it is, and affecting the collective consciousness, or trying to do something good. And then the way that it felt that the journey was full of synchronicities to just kind of guide us that that's what we really need to do and focus on. It wasn't just right away that we knew it, just like it's kept coming around. And the one that was kind of solidified it for us was we met my cousin on top of Mount Shasta it was a full moon and an eclipse, and I didn't see her for many years, and just by coincidence, and then we get to speak. I share with her about this book that was affecting us so much, the three of us volunteer, and then she's sharing with me that she did few sessions herself with this modality and how it's affecting her life, and that was a moment that we were like, okay, I need to really put my attention on it right now. And soon after, we discovered that we can learn quantum healing hypnosis technique online, and kind of convinced Michael that we need to do it.
I was so resistant. I wanted nothing to do with it at all. I fought him tooth and nail the whole
I'm
time.
like, no, I'm doing it, and if you don't want, you don't have to, but I'm doing it.
This is usually how it is when it's something that's really important for our path. I'm so resistant just to make sure that he's like so committed to doing it.
So we end up learning it together, and for us, it just like very quickly, in the quantum healing hypnosis technique, you need to do 25 sessions before you get certified. And from the first month, we already both completed the 25 people, and right away it started to like, from our first session, it was very profound, and kind of told, I remember in one of my first sessions that the collective said that this was orchestrated for us from above to do this work, and that it's I don't know, it's really felt like, okay, so imagine that from being dancers and trying to organize workshops and festivals, suddenly from moving a lot, we're just sitting patiently
Oh my God.
and listening a lot and asking questions. And so it was a big shift, and I think I want to continue, maybe share that more than just the shift of like what we do for our living, it was also shift in our consciousness, very big, very fast. Our reality started to change, and soon after, we also started to learn more about receiving guidance and personal guidance, and also being led to different places in the world to do grid work, and to understand that we are part of bigger mission, that there's the conscious, maybe more seen work that we do as practitioners, But there's also the light work that we do that is just kind of in the background, going to different sites, going to nature, sitting and meditating, connecting with light, doing energy healing. It's becoming part of your life in so many other ways. It's not just, okay, I'm going to hold sessions and heal people. It's becoming your way of life, the way that you're implementing the information, and the way you're going to sleep, the way you pray, the way you're just kind of adding to any layers of your being information that comes from the sessions. And, yeah.
If you've read any of Dolores's books, you know, she mentions that she would be doing one session, one part of the world. This is probably pre-internet or before internet was really big, not like we have right now with all of you like that. But she would get a piece of a story here, and then she'd be on the other side of the planet, and then the subconscious of the client would say, here's the rest of that story, or here's the next part for your book, or something like that, where like this really incredible communication started happening that, you know, was directed at her. And one of the first times that happened to me totally freaked me out. I can't wait for you to have yours. Where this client was like completely, she was a somnambulist. So somnambulism, as Dolores defined it, was when the client becomes the consciousness that that is being focused on in the session, or becomes their subconscious or their higher self. So my client, right away, I was trying to move her. She was like in the sun. She was receiving souls after they left their bodies, and she was welcoming them back to a sun. I don't know if it was the Great Central Sun or our Solaris, but when I asked her to move forward to another important time, she was really confused, and she was like, "What are you talking about? There's no time." Like, she was really, really confused. So I had to be on my toes and try to figure out how to move a being to another time that had no concept of it. But then once I asked later in the session, in those earlier sessions, I was asking, why was this client brought to me? What's the purpose that the client came to me out of all the other practitioners? And this is the part that really freaked me out, was when the client said, to change your mind. I was like, oh, to change my mind? Why does my mind need to be changed? And I'm like, my heart's racing, my blood's pumping in my body. I can barely think. The energy's super high in the room, and her higher self went on to share that I was doubting myself and doubting my path. And while my faith was strong at times, when I doubted myself, it was like just totally knocked me off my center, and I would feel guilt around that. And that was a whole other thing, and that was something that I needed to really work on. So I would say that was probably around my 30th, probably like my 30th session. And I would say the first 30 sessions, I didn't believe anything really that was coming out of my clients' mouths. I was really doubting my own ability to facilitate. I was doubting their experience. It was really like, I'm not really sure if this works. I can see them having an experience, but I don't really know if I believe it. And then when that happened, I was like, okay. And then also her higher self started to say things about my own childhood and why I had to go through certain things. So the power that we're working with in these sessions is unlike any other healing modality I've ever come across. I mean, spontaneous channeling or those kinds of things do happen in other sessions, but this was like a whole other world. And very quickly, I started to release a lot of dogmatic thinking from my religious upbringing. I have been studying end times philosophy since I was like a little kid. I knew I was going to be a part of whatever that big event was going to be, but I was very much seeing it through the lens of Christianity. So when I started to come into this material, it was shattering my whole perception of myself and the world. And it freaked me out. It really did. I spent a lot of time really afraid, because then I was not really sure how I was going to communicate this to my family. How do I even tell them what I do? I hope they appreciate it. I hope all that stuff's long gone now, but they're on their own path. But yeah, I'm just going to say that when you're working with this in this type of way, you're going to grow so rapidly. The clients are going to have the information's going to come and it's going to shape you in the most beautiful, beautiful way. So my advice is to come in knowing that you can to leave your expectations behind you, because you're going to see the world, see the universe through a whole different lens.
Yeah, and I want to, that's also the intention of the day today, is we're going to take some time, some inventory to kind of find where you might holding those little things and kind of take a moment to start, release things. So during the work, I remember also learning the quantum healing hypnosis technique only during the journey itself, during the journey of learning it, I felt myself bumping into my beliefs as well. So I'm sure some of you might have that, some of you maybe experience so much and have less of it. Everyone have their own personal experience and no one's better than others, and it's all beautiful, and will bring you the right people for you and the right people to work with, and magnetize the issues that help you grow. Both practitioners and the clients are receiving the most beneficial information for both of you, and a lot of the information that comes and the level of information that can come depend on both of you. If you can hold the information, if you're conscious enough, if you're in integrity enough, if there's a reason for you, if you're doing something useful with this information or not. There's so much things that are involved in why you would get certain information and why someone else will get certain information, because we're tapping into the galactic library, or the IQH, and we can just pull stories that for certain purposes in different times. So it's depend in you and depend on the collective what's needed.
I want to talk a little bit about, just to sum up Dolores Cannon a little bit more, and then we'll move into the next thing. So just before Dolores passed away, she had written 19 books, compiled 19 books, and her daughter is still working on some of the ones that she had finished, that she had not quite completely finished when she was done with this life. So Dolores practiced her modality of QHHT for about 30 years and codified her own technique before teaching it for another 20 before passing away. And her technique was developed through experimentation, play, discovery. It was just kind of trial and error. She wasn't formally trained. Her husband was. They just kind of. Do you guys know the story about how she discovered it? Have you read that? The 5 Lives Remembered is the book that you want to read of hers. If you want to get the understanding of how it came into her life. She was not looking for it. She was doing regular hypnosis with her husband, like habit stuff, like smoking, eating, that kind of thing. And a client just spontaneously went into a past life. And over that period of this next 30 years, she experimented a bunch of different ways and came up with the modality that she was teaching. Now, after she passed away, her organization kind of had a split. One part of the group went this way, another part went this way. The part that is QHHT teaches the technique exactly like Dolores did it. No changes, no alterations. It has to be done exactly as she did it. So the script can't be changed, all that stuff. There was, at the time, technology with the internet was just starting to come around. And Dolores was an older woman. She wasn't into technology. She had a lot of fear around technology.
Yeah, she was recording her sessions with cassette and changing it, and just later on
Two cassette players, because usually the energy was so high, something could happen to at least one, maybe both of those cassettes. So, so she had two cassettes and like microphones, and it was a very different analog situation with her. So the other group that went the other way, which eventually became Beyond Quantum Healing, very much honored experimentation, play, the practitioner's individual skill set, and was also starting to really support online sessions. And thank goodness for people like Candace, Alba Weinman, which was huge for us when we first started like discovering this stuff, because Alba was putting videos online and that really hadn't been done yet. And so you could see sessions happening, and that was really, really powerful. So thank goodness that, you know, some people continued to go this way and continued to experiment.
Yeah, very quickly also when we started to do the modality, we, you know, in the beginning we learned the basic and we did it exactly as it's been told us, and it felt very powerful because it's easy. You get it, you understand what you need to do, you just do that and it works. And it's such, it give you the confidence to do it. So I was appreciating it very much, though we very quickly learned that it's time for us to evolve it and to do it online. And even it came through client sessions, and we learned that it's okay, and it's kind of, and we had few conversation about it.
You even had a talk with
I
Candace.
talked with Candace about
before
it.
the IQH course ever came out.
Yeah, before the Beyond Quantum Healing was actually, it was still only birthing. There wasn't a name yet, but we knew that it's time to change it. That we're actually, unfortunately, we're just gonna not do the official quantum healing hypnosis technique anymore, because we're going to do it online. Because we've been asked from the higher self, from the collective consciousness, and as somebody that is so honoring this consciousness that speaks through, we can't ignore it. We just can't. Our heart can't, I don't know, not listen. Even this, doing this course was something that was asked from us to us. Okay, it's time for you to do it. So we were like, okay.
I just want to comment on what that period of time was like, because we all loved Dolores so much and value QHHT so much. And we were all like, but things have to change, and who's going to do it first? And like, I'll support you, go for it. It was like when Alba put her videos online, it was just like, oh, risky. That's wow. Okay. Like it was, and now it's so common for this online thing. But I just remember at the time it was
we received a letter. We received a letter of the new rules and the new regulations, and Alba shared that they contacted her and told her that she cannot use any more Dolores' name.
There's legal stuff that happened.
And it's just like a bunch of things that was happening, and we're like, okay.
We're going the other direction.
Yeah.
Keep me out of that. Yeah.
So we very quickly decided to change the name, and we used for a long time Beyond Quantum Healing, even though that we never did the course or anything like that. We just like, okay, we're doing it online. We call it Beyond Quantum Healing. And then after we supported and kind of, we didn't do the course, but we kind of read through a little bit of the Beyond Quantum Healing. We shared with our friends that they can learn it in this way, and some people that we know studied Beyond Quantum Healing and went through that journey.
There was another thing that was really missing too, was in QHHT, they were not acknowledging entity removal at all. Wouldn't even have a conversation about it in the level 2 training that I went to. It was like, it doesn't exist. This is purely a creation of the higher self. You don't do any extraction. You don't do anything, no extra steps, that kind of thing. And I was already doing extraction work through through the hypnosis, and it was really powerful, and it really shifted the entire session and the physicality of the person, the emotions. So for me, it was like, wait a minute, I'm having these experiences. I have to trust that. Also, Candace wasn't really experiencing entity stuff in her sessions, but she was at least connecting people with some resources of how to do it.
So they started to recognize that some people getting it, some people not. There's different people receiving different clients, and as we said before, you attract different type of clients depending on your skill set, what you can hold. If somebody is being afraid of attachment, they might won't even come to them because they know maybe they're not the practitioner that can deal with this. But when we binge watched Alba's videos before starting doing our even first session, we learned I was already seeing how she was doing it, and I knew that if it comes my way, I've got it. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And in my first session, I already had entities. So
Okay, so let's go into what is illuminated quantum healing. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we're almost there through this section. We're doing well. So it says illuminated quantum healing is a multi-dimensional healing method that incorporates energy healing, meditative practices, and hypnosis skills to uncover limiting subconscious patterning and integrate healing and wisdom from one's higher self. That's the description I've come up with so far. It'll probably change a bunch of times, but I'll read it one more time for you. Illuminated quantum healing is a multi-dimensional healing method that incorporates energy healing, meditative practices, and hypnosis skills to uncover limiting subconscious patterning and integrate healing and wisdom from one's higher self. It's kind of hard to describe this thing in a few sentences because it's so multi-layered and there's so many stages to it where different things happen. So why we created this course was we wanted to honor the structure created by Dolores Cannon. We loved how QHHT was basically how Dolores taught it was be a robot, say exactly what I said, and it's going to work. And that's it. Like no improvisation, no anything like that. So honoring the structure created by Dolores Cannon, honoring practitioners' individual skill set. So we're going to teach you what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and then say, go for it, create your own. Like make it yours, make it feel comfortable. Don't make it a cookie cutter thing. This is why we do these things. This is what our experience has been, but ultimately you have to do what feels comfortable for you so that you can feel authentic, so that your client can feel your authenticity, can feel your presence. Because if you're just trying to keep it, I know for me, when I was just reading the script over and over and over again, I missed out on so much. Out on so much that was happening in the session. So we also are going to do some good training for online stuff. So doing Zoom meetings like this, but also mentorships. How do you work with somebody over a few meetings, and how could you design it, and those kinds of things? How do we ask questions? How do we continue to craft that offering for people that we're going to work with a few times? And then a really important part was the self-development part. Because again, with QHHT, it was just do as I'm doing, and Dolores was coming from a hypnotist background. That was the way that she came in. She wasn't an energy practitioner. She wasn't doing yoga. She wasn't meditating. She didn't really claim to have any type of psychic gifts. We're coming in with a lot more. We're much more into this process, all of us. So we want you to really feel expanded and feel comfortable and confident and authentic and all of that good stuff.
I also feel like something that's important is that we're creating a modality that is helping the client to start to be more sovereign in their connection, in the way they after embody. That is not just like, okay, we're going to get a healing, a patch of something, and then their mind, their habits can bring it back from their beliefs. We want to make it that is ongoing and lasting, and really change them in a way that that is like their evolution and it's and
So what makes IQH unique? We do online and in-person sessions. So we'll talk about how to set up and conduct both styles, online and in person. There's the personal development as well, building confidence in practitioners to share their knowledge and experience. So we're going to help you get your information out there and help you feel more confident in sharing and expressing this illusion shattering information that you all carry and will be receiving, and it's so exciting and needed. And so I can totally, like I said, I was coming from a super Christian, really closed-minded family, and I was like, how do I tell them all this weird stuff? I was talking to an alien yesterday on a spaceship above the earth. Okay. We're going to talk about entity extraction. We're going to talk about how to, feel really confident, really comfortable in engaging in extraction work. That's implants as well. There's all kinds of weird little things that can happen to the energy of a soul that we're going to teach you how to work with that. Keeping the strong foundation of our teacher while allowing personal space for adaptation. We're going to bring in some yogic practices, some yogic philosophy that's really going to help getting understanding. Yoga philosophy and yoga psychology has really shifted my whole perception of this. When we did, like Dolores, when she did how she taught us to do the interview process was basically ask them questions and nod your head for like 2 hours, just let them know that you're listening. That's really about it. That's the training that we got for the interview. And for me, the interview is so crucial. Having a lengthy, like we're going to sit and we're going to talk for some time. We're going to get to know each other. We just met each other 5 minutes ago, and you're going to share the most intimate, juicy, dark, weird stuff with me. I want to hear it all. Give it to me. I'm not going anywhere. There's no rush, which, might feel a little bit different. I have people that have done some other trainings and they did really fast interviews. The interview is so important.
It is very clear also in quantum healing hypnosis technique that your interview is very important, and it's about establishing trust, and that is take a lot of time that you normally take 2 hours. So it is emphasized. There's a lot of the process is about the interview, and there's also tools, and there's what she refer as subliminals, and things that you say during the interview, but there's not so much about how to investigate their life, how to get their life story in a way. There's some ideas and tools. We're going to give those and more that will help you to really I find that the interview part can have so much healing just for itself. Like
I'm actually now my remote intuitive healing that I'm offering as a offering that I do is basically just the interview process. I just do the interview process with people. I'm bringing in a little bit more energy healing stuff in it, but I was like, wow, this is so powerful. It could stand on its own. And so now I'm basically just doing that and bringing some more alchemical stuff into it. But
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the interview, the way that we facilitate now the session is that from the beginning, we're already working with the energies. We're going to talk about it more in depth later on, but we're already starting a little different. We're starting with a meditation. We're doing the interview. The interview is co-creative experience that is already igniting the healing that available to do through the interview. And we're going to teach that as well. So I'm just kind of referring what we're adding that we discovered.
So the ceremonial approach was really natural for us. It felt really good. It felt like it was adding dimensionality to the work because Dolores was very clinical in how she did it. She didn't even take notes. There was no note paper in her interview. She just sat and listened. anyway, I don't really recommend scribing while you're trying to build a connection with somebody, but that was just a little difference in how she was teaching it. I feel like that's about it. We're also going to talk more about working with other consciousness besides the higher self. So working with ascended masters, working with angels when they come in. We'll talk about a couple different groups. The Council of Light. There's infinite amounts of councils in creation, but we'll talk about how to have a full-on conversation with an entity and how you can get some really good information from this poor little soul or fragment that's stuck here.
Yeah, and so we said that it's like being done with the higher self, but we're actually learning that there's so many different type of consciousness that can come through to speak. We learn how to move through between them. We will learn discernment, what to do with them. We would learn a little bit of, there was something that you mentioned. And we're also going to learn, there's a few things that we learned through the doing the modality, that the way that we ask the questions can bring to a deeper healing. And there's more questions that if you ask them, it's kind of like a key for the higher consciousness to come in to check those places. And if you don't ask, they don't go there.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna adding more tips of what questions can emphasize and enhance the healing. That's something that we're adding to this training. Also the closing, and we love closing a little bit with like a prayer, or closing with like a guidance that the person knows what to do next, because a lot of the healing depends how the person is integrating, how he's deciding to trust it or to doubt it. The ego mind we learned is or the monkey mind, how Dolores called it, or however part we want.
She called it Mr. Stupid.
Mr. Stupid, that's true. Not the monkey.
She called the conscious mind Mr. Stupid.
Yeah. So I'll call it monkey mind, or basically we're so strong in our habits. It was so strong when I tell you, oh no, it cannot be. You're just doubting it. And so many people coming back and they're like, or just even having hard time to listen to the recording, having hard time to listen to their voice, having hard time to so many people just put it aside for a long time, and some will never pick it up again. So some people think they remember, but it's like a dream. And if it's not being learned with your conscious mind and being decided to do some action about it, a lot of the work won't be actually integrated. So the healing will say, hey, it's been done, it's been cleared, but the person with his mind will just bring it right back. Mm-hmm. So this way, it's very important for us to explain to you, and for you to explain your clients the integration, how to close the session in a way that it's not just like, you're done, the work done, the magic happened, nothing more to do, and you're healed. You'll see that sometimes it's a process and there's more work to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Dolores had an 8-year waiting list before she passed away. 8 years. So I mean, that's the rumor within the IQH
I heard 5, but yeah.
Regardless, the real number, it was a really long time. So she generally saw a client one time. Most clients she only saw one time, and that's it. So.
But if you read the books, you see that the information that in her books is mostly from clients that she saw many times, and then this how she managed to go so in depth, and how it's beneficial to do many sessions. Because you can really work to deeper layer and receive information that is also for the collective, and then the information that you share and the messages that you bring, and then your embodiment of who you become as a light worker messenger.
I want to review just the structure just a little bit so you can understand that again. So there's the list of questions. Super important that the client comes with a list of questions. Then there's, once they arrive to the session or you tune in on the Zoom, there's the interview part. That's about an hour to 2 hours. Mine are generally about 2 hours. Sometimes they could go more. There's the experience part, or the regression, whatever you want to call it. They're not always going into past lives. Sometimes they're going into this life. Sometimes they're going into other realities. Sometimes they're going into the future. So we can call it the experience or something like that, which takes them into a deeper trance as they're focusing on the visual part. And then once they're in that really deep part, that's when we work with the higher self. That's about another hour or so in that work. So that's 1 hour regression, 1 hour working with the higher self and then bringing them up for the integration chat, which could be another 30 minutes to an hour. So that's why the sessions, if they're advertising 3-hour sessions, I'm nervous about that. I don't feel that the client's going to get the experience that they really, really need. Well, they're not going to have the most healing capacity. It might be the session that they need, considering everything's being coordinated on the higher levels. So maybe that not so deep experience might inspire them to find another practitioner. So maybe that's how it's exactly what they need. But that's the general structure we're working with. And each of those sections are so important, and none of them should be rushed through.
Yeah. Nothing should be rushed through.
Yeah.
Nothing should be rushed through. I do it longer than Michael somehow. Michael normally doing it 4 hours more
4
or
or
less,
5, yeah.
and I'm doing it 5, sometimes 6. I'm
7.
just.
My God.
Sometimes my sessions are long, but
Ron should be done. Okay, it's getting dark outside. Yeah. He's so good. He gives so much of his love and attention and care and insight. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.